welcome. You're watching our weekend podcast. We call it the Weekly Brief, and we try to bring you some interesting stories that we discovered and, of course, the world took notice of during the week. Well, on the show today, we've got three very important subjects. First up, we've got Modi's balancing act in the wake of, if I can call it, Trump's hallucinations about India agreeing to not buy Russian oil. I have Rakesh Khar with me, editor News9. I've also got today with me for a change Kartikeya Sharma, the deputy managing editor of News9. Of course, you see him on the 7 o'clock show every day, but here we are over the weekend as well. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. First things first, there's a very interesting image that we try to conjure up. Many of our viewers watching us on YouTube will possibly see it on the thumbnail of the seesaw, which has a lot of slippery, spilled Russian oil, and there is Prime Minister Modi trying to do this balancing act between Donald Trump on one side and Russian President Putin on the other side. But I think I want to start first with if I can call it that, Trump's hallucinations. I mean, out of the blue, the man comes on record and says, hey, my good friend Prime Minister Modi called me and he has told me that he's not going to buy Russian oil anymore, and also going on to further say that, I don't want to cost him his political career. I mean, these are strong statements coming. We understand that it's Donald Trump who's talking, but then a day later we get to know that no phone call ever took place between Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi after the 8th of October. So, Rakesh, what is going on here with Donald Trump?
Well, I think there's nothing right with what he's trying to do, at least with India, and he continues to play the script that he's extremely unpredictable, which is quite quite something which is imbalancing the whole world order in terms of peace and tranquility. From the Indian perspective, we thought that love is back in the air, but then suddenly it's got again disrupted.
Yeah.
The term brother, friend was back in the reckoning.
That's
but just soon after, Trump comes and says and imagines that Modi spoke to him and that Russian oil was going to be withdrawn, which is absolutely, to my understanding, not possible.
Factually incorrect to begin with. And here you have the leader of the free world, the President of the United States, really going on record in a room full of reporters saying that, hey, I'm giving you breaking news that India will stop buying Russian oil.
But this isn't the first time that Trump has gone like that.
You're right. In fact, his love-hate relationship with leaders around the world has been ongoing. It started off with a lot of hate for Volodymyr Zelensky and a lot of love for Putin. And then that changed. It started off with, hey, I'm going to do a lot of business with China. Hey, we are not going to slap as heavy tariffs on China. Look at now this 100%
That was the
tariff.
scenario when we did the last podcast.
Exactly. So, this seesaw which Donald Trump is doing, what do you make of it? Is this, while it is a telling sign of Donald Trump and his personality, is it the telling sign of a leader of the free world?
See, there are three things here. The first thing is that we are taken by surprise because Trump has, there is no distinction between public and personal in Trump's diplomacy. So that's the first shift that has taken place. The second shift is we have to understand if Trump is a strongman, Modi is also a powerful leader.
Of course.
This is his 11th year at the center, more than 2 decades in power in this country.
That's right.
So there are also domestic issues in context of positioning.
Yeah.
It's not as if that America doesn't matter. If you look at the perspective which emanates from retired bureaucrats, or if you look at the perspective which comes from the people who are writing in newspapers, they clearly say there is no getting away from America.
Correct.
We can't walk side by side with China. We have to manage the conflict with China.
Yeah.
And we cannot have that density of trade relationship with Russia. So these are hard facts.
You're right.
But the third most important thing is the MEA statement that came, which says that we are deepening the energy cooperation between both the countries, and the spokesperson said, we are not aware of the phone call which took place between Trump. I do not give any benefit of doubt to Donald Trump. No benefit of doubt to Donald Trump. He's a liar.
Yeah.
He behaves like a real estate agent.
No, absolutely.
And
there is no room for India to cut imports from Russia.
And secondly,
it will have consequences for geoeconomics, because if who is going to take that space from Russia?
Actually, you don't know. Perhaps the deep discounts on Russian oil are already over. Those days are behind us, right? So India has diversified from OPEC to OPEC plus.
If I may say this, he does not respect the red line made by Prime Minister Modi, drawn by Prime Minister Modi.
He doesn't respect his own red line. There's no line with him.
It's interesting they're using red line in the context of the Soviet Union, the Russian oil that we are buying.
He expected Prime Minister Modi to behave like Venezuelan leader of opposition who said this Nobel Prize is for Trump. or he expected Prime Minister Modi to behave like Macron and stand like a child in the Oval Office, or like Starmer.
Yeah.
He did not behave like. In fact, Trump got snubbed, if you recall, when the Prime Minister was in Canada.
Yeah.
And he said, you can make a detour and come to Washington.
That's right.
He went
right.
to Jagannath
Yeah,
Temple.
correct.
And there was a
Absolutely.
tweet. And that was the first polite snub that there are some red lines which we Indian government have done. But it does not just emanate from the BJP government. It has been a policy since inception.
Sure.
So my understanding is Trump thinks that he can bully his way around.
He can get away with lying publicly, which is not the case,
But we don't
especially
want
with
to
India.
disengage with America.
Right.
But we
So
want to
that is
make
the
it
balancing
self-respect.
act. So that is the balancing act that I think Modi would find very difficult to do right now, diplomatically, economically, politically as well. Because at one point you're getting this not as discounted, but decently diversified sources of procuring energy. I think we have maintained our strategic autonomy. We have maintained the fact that we want to buy oil, we want to procure our energy needs from any region as long as our national economic interests are secured. So there's no departure for India.
It's a good
Now,
thing that we're doing the balancing
you're
act.
right.
We're
So
not
that
getting into
balancing act is
submission.
there.
There are two tracks
and
available.
Rakesh,
today.
if US wants to arm twist us and say that, hey, there is going to be no deal with the US, the 50% tariff will stay, and guess what? We'll make it 100%, but you've got to stop buying Russian oil. Can India afford to buy Russian oil?
No, look at the
to not buy Russian oil.
No, India can't afford to drop Russia both politically and economically.
Right. Now, if
And
Donald Trump
In
says...
terms of defense also, Rakesh, because there's one thing, we are
I
down
just
to
want to make a
29
point.
squadrons.
This 50% tariff now, September data has come
Yeah.
out. Our exports have grown marginally.
Yeah.
So that those who played the devil's advocate saying that तूफान आ जाएगा, India गिर जाएगा, ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं.
But
वरना होने वाला है.
our exports to US have fallen 12%.
That's fine,
So,
that's fine.
So the tariffs are having some sort of a negative
not saying they're not
impact
having
on the
any
Indian
negative,
economy.
but that's
But I'm
fine.
saying at the same time, our oil imports have increased.
I would like
our
to make
gold imports
two
have increased.
predictions, Karthik. First and foremost, India-US bilateral trade agreement will happen.
Right. I'll just come to that. I just want to finish that conversation on Russian oil. So you're saying that India cannot stop importing
Karthik,
Russian oil. My
is
question
also-
is, India has said that India is willing to diversify its sources of energy. If
Including
wants
US.
to, exactly.
Including US.
If
We have
US,
increased-
if US wants to deep discount its own energy to India, should India have an ideological quarrel in dropping Russia and adopting
there's
American
unpredictability
oil?
with the American administration. Biden wanted us to buy the Russian oil. We
Hypothetically-
did that, and Trump penalized us for that.
Hypothetically, if US discounts its energy exports to India, should India have an ideological
There are
quarrel
two
in
parts
dropping
to it.
Russia?
There's two parts of it.
I think
no
it's
ideological
no,
quarrel.
no,
There is a
ideological quarrel,
maths
but
to
there's
it.
a problem there.
No, that's right. There's an economic math. The other one is the political math. As I
Yeah.
said, if India withdraws completely from Russia, there is a global energy pricing crisis because China cannot consume the amount that India is buying.
Right.
It's already in a surplus.
Right.
It will lead to escalation in prices, which is going to hurt the global oil economy.
Okay.
So India should not do it. India can taper off slightly, and it can increase from the US. That it's already doing.
Okay.
That's
Coming
what-
back specifically to oil, and that has become a pretty much a slippery slope when we come to diplomatic equations between India and US, India and Russia, and then of course the entire China angle coming in. I don't want to end this discussion really without bringing China back in, because China is getting equally penalized, if not more penalized, than India when it comes to its own export restrictions of rare earth minerals. What I'm trying to arrive at is that China has a critical advantage. China has a distinctive competitive advantage, a leverage that India does not.
Now,
In
so-
that context, does it make India's diplomacy much harder and India's own positioning much weaker vis-a-vis the US?
So there's a new element which has just come up, the critical minerals. There is convergence between India and US today, likely convergence. We know the unpredictability, which was not the case earlier. If you look at the critical minerals import from China for India
Yeah.
and critical minerals import from China to US,
Yeah.
80% of matching items.
Okay.
So that is going to be a big catalyst for India US to sign the trade deal. Believe me.
Right,
That's one. Second
but
big
we don't
factor.
have the reserves of critical minerals as vast as China does.
No,
Neither do we have the
we are
processing
both
capability.
importing, so we want to put pressure on China.
Okay.
I was not
okay,
saying we have the
okay,
import.
okay.
Both are importing. The
Right.
matching list is 80%.
Right.
So that convergence is hardcore economic and political.
Got it.
Second point, Karthik, is that why I'm saying the deal, Karthik, the deal will happen, is that, one is this China angle which has come, where India sees great convergence with US.
Yeah.
And second is that there's great pushback to Trump from someone like the Apple, founder.
Right.
He only announced
Tim Cook.
yesterday, Tim Cook, despite pressure and public outcry from Trump and his entire team, he has gone on record yesterday saying that I'm going to double up both on India and China.
Right.
So that constituency is raising. Then the other big thing that happened today morning, the US Business Chamber, which is the
Yeah.
most influential chamber, which has the direct dotted line with the US Commerce Department, has filed a lawsuit in the highest court saying that HB1 visa for business should be taken back.
Right.
So this pushback is phenomenal.
Of course, but I think with all things US and all things Trump and the way the administration functions, one doesn't really know eventually how the story is going to end. But on this subject of oil, I think we've had a fairly heated discussion already. We don't want it to go on fire anymore, so we'll take